So the term composition. So have either of you done any creative work? Marion?
Can you, yes and no.
But have you drawn at all?
A little bit, but
Yeah.
mostly just for pleasure myself.
Okay. And Greg?
Yeah, I do a lot of just sketches and kind of drawing on the side.
Cool. And Sandy, do you ever do any drawing?
Yes, I do.
Cool. Do you the term like a composition. Now, if you have a any like a composition is a controlled arrangement in a picture. And with the first assignment is going, the composition is going to be kind of important to it. It's sort of like what the basis of it is. And if you have any change that you make to it is going to be the beginning of a composition. So we're going to be doing this with so if I'm trying to make this progression through space, which is what I have just done there, this creates an experience for the viewer, and that is one way to show this. Like your assignment will be to make this progression go from like through this composition. They're actually going to be longer. They're going to be this kind of like, I'm going to have you do a series of these longer, narrow compositions like this. And repeating shape, you're going to create this progression. And like this is, I'm choosing a circle for that initial composition. I've got some big kind of open areas here. This might need a little bit more. Like this will sort of like create this a little more, looks like a little more negative, like an, I guess, defined negative space in there. If I add some extra shape here, but I keep this dominant, like that, then you'll get the viewer will see this as the more important part of the composition. And like this is kind of like, this is subordinate information out here. So you would have like dominant information, subordinate information, and there are some people who write about design theory who will suggest that you can also, like somewhere in between them, subdominant. Sometimes this gets into splitting hairs about like what every shape's role in the image is. But this is the kind of stuff where like you can, it's easy to look at a picture and say, I like it, I don't like it, it's interesting, it's not interesting. But getting down into like almost like it's like the construction of the image, that's where you start thinking about like, like what is my image for? What's it about? And just in the creation of it, like what's the most important thing? And the most important thing, like in here, is this really it's like a simple. It's just kind of like it's a simple effect to make the viewer go like follow that path. And then you make another one. I might choose a rectangle for this next one. You can change the dimension. I mean, you can change the dimensions of that. If we have this, let's say I'm going to start down in this corner. With some of them, you don't have to make this kind of like guide for yourself or where things are going, but it can be helpful. If I do this like crazy loopy thing, I might not be able to make all of my rectangles stay on the line, so it's really more like it's a suggestion. But in this case, I wanted to have have this kind of like whip more and have it change. And as I'm doing this, I'm responding to how I'm kind of responding to each one. Images that are made, I mean, if you've made images before, I mean, you might already know this, but if I'm just making something up from scratch, I really don't know what I'm going to get until I get there. And this process of making it is really how you discover where it's going to go. I have encountered in my time as an artist and educator, many times people assume that the way art works or the way design works is that the person making it just knows ahead of time what's going to happen and then just does it. That it just like it's done in your head and then it just like comes out kind of automatically. That really doesn't work that way. You can have, I've developed, in my many years, I've drawn since I was a kid and I never stopped. And that might be true for some of you. And I'm really happy that I sort of settled on a career doing something visual when I was very young. But at this point, there are some things that are basic that are not difficult for me. That doesn't mean that doing design or art is easy, but basics like when you're practice at something, then you don't have to worry about the basics. You worry about more advanced problems, which is really where you want to be. Does that make sense to you? A lot of people who don't do art or design, I've discovered, like to tell people who do it how it's done, and they have no idea what they're talking about. So, it's part of what makes it interesting is that if you're creating something, you're creating something new. I've never made these two drawings before, and these are not, groundbreaking. They're not groundbreaking drawings, but they're effective, and there's actually a certain amount of certain amount of pleasure I get from them. So you can see the difference between this image here was a kind of a good warm-up. This one I'm getting something a little bit more interesting. This is a little bit more animated, would you say? I mean, does this look like there's something like paper or something fluttering through the air?
Seems like there's more going on, like more motion or something.
Yeah, much more. There's more motion, there's more activity. And it's almost like it's like, I guess if, in a way you could say there's a little more feeling in this drawing than in this one. Not that one of them is better than the other, but they're different. And I think that's something that you want to be able to try to generate a certain amount of variety in your work so that you have options. The in the field of design, the people who are paying for the design work like to see options. And at times I've encountered this with people who are learning it, that once something is successful, they want to stop. Like, I did a drawing, it's good, it works, I'm just going to go with that. And if you stop too soon, you really have no idea how good that first or some of those early drawings are. So, like, I'll ask you to make. I'll have to check. I'm going to check the document. It's either 8 or 10 drawings to begin with that are small like this, just so that you can get through some ideas. And so this also with composition, what we're going to be doing here for this this first assignment is going to be open compositions. And by open composition, it means, oh boy, well, this having my camera overhead like this allows me to see whether or not I'm drawing straight. Oh, come back here. All right, so open composition is when your image goes to the edge of the picture and gets cropped. So it's like, and I'm going to just draw a little demo guy down here. A closed composition is when your information does not reach the edge of the picture. And what it does, it tends to have a flatter, more symbolic look to it. And an open composition will tend to have a little bit more of a, I guess, the appearance of reality, or a realistic, like realistic space, because it looks like it's kind of cropping three-dimensional space. And so, when you're doing the assignment, this first assignment is going to be to create open compositions where it comes in on one side, goes out the other. And I want you to go the long way. You can go like out the bottom, out the top, as long as it's generally going like the length of it. So if you start with a 3 by 6, let's put that there. so small? Mm. Mm. There. So your initial drawings can be this. This is 6 inches, 3 inches, and I'm going to say you're going to make 10. 10 compositions. We're gonna, and that's like an initial set of drawings to just like warm up to creating some, you know, a good set for yourself. We're gonna work on this in class on Thursday, since you know that's when I know everyone will be there. But you know, for those of you, I want to talk a little bit about that, just for those of you who wanted to see it first. But of course, I also wanted to talk about the assignments. Any questions about this or comments for me? No. All right.